The Four Seasons Yacht I. This is global luxury hotel brand Four Seasons' first foray into the ultra-luxury cruise space. Easily the most anticipated launch in all of 2026, I came to give it a full review and to honestly show you every single part of what it's actually like to stay aboard the Four Seasons Yacht I. This is a video you don't want to miss.
Oh, is that bold? Worst I have ever experienced in a hotel.
Ooh. Now, those that have seen my videos before know that I normally review luxury hotels, but fundamentally being a giant, ultra expensive luxury hotel on the ocean, the same criteria apply. I reviewed the Four Seasons Yacht I out of 5 categories in 50 points. The categories are the ambiance, the room, the dining, the service, and the it factor. I was not associated with Four Seasons on this in any way. I paid full price, and here's the receipt to prove it. Spanning 7 days, this is the longest I have ever taken to review a single property, and there is so much to show you. My goal is to show you everything honestly, with full transparency in ways that you can't find anywhere else online. I want to start with the ambiance section and head to deck 5, which is the main deck on the ship. Let's take a step back and talk about the check-in process here on the ship. When you get dropped off, which by the way, the only info that you get is the port and the date of departure, everyone, as you can see here, is kind of just standing around. There's a small desk, it's very confusing, your bags get taken and they get tossed around a little bit through the security, as you can see. I was very unsure of where to go. My bags were going in one direction, I was heading in another. The best word to describe it is chaotic. You get to the actual ship itself and it's the most empty welcome ceremony that I've ever seen on a cruise ship or a hotel. Once you get on the ship itself, the system does improve, but it's a little bit like being baptized by fire here on the Four Seasons Yacht I, and it kind of set the tone for the rest of the week. Here is where you'd be spending most of your time on board, or so you'd think. The piscine pool is meant to be a central location for everyone on board, but as you can see here, it's hardly used in practice. First, there's no jacuzzi on board. And you'll see later in the room segment, there's an issue with hot water on the ship in general, but no jacuzzi on board changes the atmosphere. Instead of being social and community driven, it instead feels sterile and cold. Quite literally. There's no running track anywhere on board or around the pool here. There's no poolside service. I mean, there is a bar, but I can't find any staff anywhere. And the only real reason you would come to the pool at all is to get some sun and swim some laps. Not a big enough incentive to keep it busy out here. As we make our way around the ship, I want to go over one of the biggest criticisms this yacht has online. It is not all-inclusive. Yes, unlike the Ritz Carlton yacht or the Aman yacht coming next year, you have to pay extra for lunch, dinner, spa services, excursions, activities, personal training, and many other things on board. All that's included is breakfast and the Wi-Fi. That's a little tough. We'll talk about it much more later in the dining segment where it becomes a very interesting consideration. But now I want to take you somewhere you might not be expecting. So welcome to floor 6. Floor 6, it definitely goes up a notch as far as the extravagance. You have a full cigar lounge where I am now, Bar O, and the Sedna, the fine dining dinner restaurant. We're going to take a look at both of those later. There's also a caviar and champagne outdoor area. So if you want to have that very high level Four Seasons experience, this is the floor for you. All right, so I'm trying to show you the medical center here on 3, and it seems to be closed or locked, which is odd. So if you have a medical emergency, I don't know. We'll come back. Speaking to the artwork around the cruise ship, I definitely think there's room for improvement. The artwork here looks like it might be inspired by SpongeBob, and if you know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna put it here on the screen. Regardless, there is art throughout this cruise ship, and design-wise, they've done a good job of creating a consistency across the entire ship. On floor 4 is La Oceana Spa. And today I got a chance to take a look at some of the most popular things on the menu, and I picked something called the Four Seasons Miracle Broth Facial. So this is something you can only get on the Four Seasons Yacht I. It is a 90-minute treatment for $620 US. The spa itself is very beautiful. I actually love the mosaic tiling that they have here. I'm sure it was done by a craftsman by hand. It feels distinctly different from the rest of the ship. Let me show you a sneak peek inside. Before we get into the treatment, I want to talk about the check-in process for the spa. No welcome drink, no welcome snack, no waiting area that has those things for you, and I've been looking around and there's also no water. So missing some of those amenities you'd be used to at a high-end spa. However, the real indicator of quality is what you're about to see. What a facial. So at first I thought it was going to be a very simple facial, but then she got into the masks, the scalp massage, the hand and arm massage. She definitely made great use of the 90 minutes. With that, however, I wasn't quite sure what was unique to the Four Seasons Yacht I. Maybe it's the products that they use, that broth that's patented for the ship. I'm not quite sure, but I can tell you it's a definite plus for the ambiance segment. Outside of this dry sauna with an incredible view, there are two other parts to the spa I want to show you. First, they have a full steam hammam here on site where you can sit in a communal steam room here. Again, that mosaic continues into this room. It's one of the most beautiful spots on the ship, hands down. And if you want a little psychotherapy, you can go into the cold plunge. Yes, there's a full cold plunge on site with ice to make it even colder. Oh man, all right. Here we go. I've done a lot of these on this channel. So I've changed now, and if that cold plunge wasn't cold enough for you, here in the Four Seasons Yacht, they have a cryotherapy chamber. So for $110 for 3 minutes, you work with a professional who comes in, gives you all the protective gear that you need, and you go inside a negative 121 degree Fahrenheit cryo chamber. Also on deck 4 is the small theater. And behind the theater is the green room. So this is where the talent gets ready before they go on the stage. And what better place to walk you through an example of a daily schedule here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. I'm just gonna read it top to bottom and we'll talk about it after. The day starts with laid-back acoustic guitar. We then have the piano lounge with Eva Blossoms. After that, the art of piano. We have keys and cocktails, which is also piano, but this time with cocktails. Scenic soundscapes with DJ Glenn. Folk classics on guitar. Acoustic pop hits with resident guitarist. A spotlight on Mary Jess, who is a guitarist. And we end the day with salon DJ sessions. I've taken many cruises in my life. Again, nothing like the Four Seasons Yacht, but this schedule is very disappointing. There's no activities or trivia or competitions. There's nothing fitness related. It's really just focused on music. Now, many people coming on board may want to have a musical experience while they're on the ship, but honestly for me, the last thing I want to do is for 10 hours through the day, sit and just listen to different types of music. Now, they do have a theater that you just saw, and in the theater, a couple of evenings, there are some performances like the Chinese X Factors performing tomorrow night. Not sure what that entails, but it's few and far between. All right, let's keep going through this deck. I'm in the gym now wearing my Vuori Seaside pullover hoodie in heather gray. If you've seen the channel in the past, you know Vuori sponsored multiple of my videos. I always wear Vuori when I'm in the gym. It is so comfortable. Let me tell you a bit about this space. It is small, packed, very compact, and very high quality. All of the equipment is Techno Gym. It is brand new. However, there's a lot of people in here most times of the day. It's hard to get a treadmill or a rowing machine, but when you do, They are very technologically advanced, and you can get a personal trainer for $200 an hour in here. There's only one fitness class per day, and it's early in the morning. It's 30 minutes of stretching. No other core classes, fitness classes, HIIT classes, nothing like that. They could definitely build up their fitness and wellness regimen here on board. With that, there's not much else to see in here, so let's head to the medical bay and see if it opened back up. While we're headed back there, let's talk about the build of this ship. So it cost almost $500 million to build this yacht, and honestly, it really is the king of yachts. The build is solid, it's an incredibly gorgeous ship here, and all of the public spaces are well furnished, although maybe a little bit impractical in use that you've already seen. Overall though, I was so impressed with this ship. It's just so striking when it's in the bay or when you're at a port, and it looks like they're already anticipating some awards as well. All right, we have finally made it into the medical center here on deck 3. The hours are from 9 to 11 a.m. and from 4 to 6 p.m. So you better not have a heart attack any other time of the day. It'll be tough to get into the medical center. However, we are in now. So let's talk about the design of this room first and foremost. It is the most beautiful medical center I've personally ever been to, let alone on a ship. It was designed by a man who was inspired by the McLaren Design Center and made this to look very similar. So you can see really bright lights, everything's very clean in here, but there is one thing I have to show you before we leave. So obviously, hopefully you don't end up in the medical care area, but if you do, they have Four Seasons bedding on the medical beds. This very well may be the most luxurious medical bed on the open sea, or maybe on the entire planet. You have the Four Seasons pillows here, comforter. I feel like I should do a whole bed test, but we don't really have time for that, so let's keep moving. This room is the salon, which is also the main gathering place for the ship. It is light, it's airy, it's beautifully furnished, and you can find guests here all through.
This is your Captain Duncan speaking to you from the bridge of Four Seasons I. Over the past couple of days, we have been closely monitoring the weather for our planned itinerary. We do have a weather system over the Greek islands. This would place the Marina Day and Carlton Mykonos at risk. We have rearranged the remaining days so you can fully enjoy your marina experience under the best possible weather conditions. Thank you.
All right, I am not quite sure what that's going to affect throughout the stay, but I'm sure it's going to, so I guess stay tuned. I'm sure it's a little crazy in the bridge right now, but I'm gonna go up and see if I can interview the captain and learn more about the stabilization of this ship, because that's definitely one of its main selling points. All right, I accidentally found some of the crew spaces on board, which was very confusing. The staff were telling me to go into the crew-only areas. I don't know. Apparently we're close to the bridge now where they actually steer the ship. On the 11th floor is the bridge, so this is where everything in the ship actually happens and is controlled from. The captain is here, you have the manual steering wheel if they need it. One of the most interesting things on the ship is that it can actually rotate 360 degrees. Because it's a smaller ship than maybe some of the larger cruise ships, they can really micro-navigate the ocean. So if they're pulling up to one of the docks, for example, they can actually crab walk and move parallel to the dock. You can see everything in here is very clean, it's so well organized, and it's just a very cool experience, so I'm grateful to get a chance to see it. This is the esteemed captain here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. One of my favorite things on the ship so far is the stabilization. It feels like you're on a hotel,
yes,
and then you're reminded you're on a ship. What is that technology?
So we do have the stabilizer. It's basically two aeroplane wings that fall out of the side of the ship. They use gyroscopes to check the inertia, and then it just applies counter rudder basically. It's a very solid vessel, and we go slow everywhere. You know, we don't want to be forcing through the ocean, so we just take our time and leisurely get from A to B sort of thing.
So how have you been feeling now? It's only been a few weeks that you've been sailing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with a new product, there's always challenges that we overcome behind the scenes, but the team's doing great, the vessel's doing great. And now we're just continuously improving, you know, behind the scenes in front of house as well. So,
well, Captain, thanks for having me. Great to meet you.
No problem. Thank you.
Copy that, all clear. On deck 3 is the marina. So once per every trip, they open up the sides of this room and it becomes a sea day, or a marina day is what they call it. So they have different boats that they bring out, floaties, and some very, very expensive looking smaller ships that are actually on the much larger yacht here as well. But it does look a little chaotic right now, maybe because of the wind. Generally speaking, this is an interesting concept to have this kind of indoor-outdoor space that they can build here. However, they move the entire itinerary of this ship multiple times so that we can have a marina day. There's some weather that's coming up here apparently, but we came to the marina day now and the weather actually wasn't favorable, so no one can actually go out on the water. So all of the guests are just standing around and no one can actually enjoy it. So it seems like the planning here has also not really been favorable. Speaking to the space, however, interesting concept, definitely a aesthetic place. There's a little bar here. You have the sides that open up so you get some of the sunlight coming in. I'm not really quite sure what they're doing right now out there with, kind of doing wheelies on the Four Seasons boats, but it's just the staff that are out there. Again, there's a lot of confusion here. The staff seem to not really know what they're doing or what guests should be doing at any time, and it's just different than any other hotel experience I've reviewed. Behind me is the second pool in the Horizon Lounge. It's right next to the Horizon restaurant that we're going to take a look at a little bit later. The water is warm, but it's not quite hot enough to be satisfying. However, the space is absolutely beautiful, but on closer inspection, this tangerine tree, for example, is low-quality plastic. So some little details like that just seem to be corners that were cut. However, this space is the best to do some stargazing. The night sky and the ship becomes so stunning as soon as the sun goes down. It has come time for the ambiance score on the Four Seasons Yacht I. We're competing against the best top luxury hotel properties around the world, and I just wasn't blown away. I gave the ambiance a 7.5 out of 10. Now, many of you are most excited, I know, for the room. What is it like to stay in a room here on the Four Seasons Yacht I, especially at that price point? I want to head there next. Also, the room key, because we didn't see it earlier, looks like this. It's your key to get off and on the ship, and you use it for charges on board. This is the base level room on the Four Seasons Yacht I. And I know it's the moment that many of you have been waiting for. So there are 95 total suites here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. And like you already saw, the base rate is $26,000 for 6 nights. Looking around, you have to remember, we're on a cruise ship. For a cruise ship, at first glance, this is bar none the best stateroom that I have ever seen. In fact, it is the biggest base level suite on the ocean currently, far surpassing the Ritz Carlton yacht, and very much so a very comfortable stay. Now I'm going to review this like I would a hotel room with the understanding that of course we are on a ship, but even so, there's some really interesting things in here I can't wait to show you. Before we get into that, take a look at this bed. Four Seasons, if they do anything exquisitely well, it is their beds. The Four Season bed on this channel has always been the #1 best sleep. I cannot wait to test it here on the yacht as well. I'm gonna sleep in it tonight, do a full bed review in the morning when I wake up. But until then, this just looks so inviting. And being on a cruise ship, this is a lot of space for a single bed. Next to the bed on both sides, you have buttons that control the shears and the curtains, but there's a little bit of a problem. So because this one's off the motor, you have to actually just manually close it. Over here, one of the most striking technological advances in the room is the TV. And you can already tell by looking at it, something is not quite normal about this TV. In fact, it is transparent. And yes, you can see through it, which honestly, in my opinion, I think is a downside. They told me that these TVs are $30,000 each, and they're in every single stateroom here. But the problem is when you can see through it, the picture is not very clear when you're watching television. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. So you can see, as absolutely fascinating and interesting as this is, it's not a very clear picture because it is transparent. So it's almost like they are substituting function for fashion and design. And I feel like when it's something like a television, you don't want to compromise the actual function of the device. Overall though, very cool. And I wonder if they did it for more of a marketing stint because it has never been done before. It's only on the Four Seasons Yacht I, or if they did it to test the new technology. You have a small seating area with a Four Seasons throw, and the welcome amenity is pretty impressive. So you have a Four Seasons Yacht cookie that they created with 4 truffles in front of it. I love it when there's art in the actual welcome amenity that you can consume or interact with. And then over here, slightly less interesting, or maybe significantly, you have 2 pieces of fruit, one of which has a strange red wax on the tip of the pear. Not sure what that symbolizes, but it's definitely a unique choice. There's a bottle of champagne complimentary for you on ice when you arrive, 2 glasses. Definitely a very nice welcome. I want to head to the balcony next. This is another negative for the room. This door is so heavy, very difficult. I don't know how people staying on this ship are able to open this. I'm winded just trying to get it open. But once you do get it open, the views are extraordinary. That's a given. Every suite on the yacht has an outdoor balcony just like this one, and the furniture is brand new. The way you can tell, there's the tag on the outside of the seat cushion because they put it on backwards. Little details like that just continue to keep popping up throughout this stay. Otherwise, you're on a cruise ship. This view is spectacular, especially the days at sea or when you pull up to a port for the first time. It's one of my favorite memories as a kid is coming out here with my dad, the seagulls flying above, we're throwing bread and just having a really good time, great conversation, looking at a new place every day. With that, let's take you to a new place in the room. One of the tests in the room is the Wi-Fi speed test. So the Wi-Fi is included in your stay here. It's one of the only things that is. But how fast is it really while you're sailing? They passed the Wi-Fi speed test here on board with 222 megabytes per second download and 26 megabytes per second upload, which is a little slower than other luxury hotels, but we're on the ocean. Quick pit stop before we get to the bathroom, the final part of the room, to take a look at the mini bar here. So I have one thing I definitely want to show you over here. I tried this water earlier. And I'm not being dramatic when I tell you this water smells like sewage. I'm not quite sure why. I don't think they're using sewage water, but something is absolutely wrong with this. And to prove it, I'm gonna take this water that I drank earlier, and feeling a little nauseated by that, and I'm going to show it to a random guest somewhere in the yacht, and you can see for yourself how they react to it. Let's go do that now. Some fortunate soul we're gonna find. We did not change anything about it.
Oh, for sure. It does have a funky smell to it.
Yeah.
It's sewer water.
So clearly, absolutely unacceptable, a huge problem in the room. To have it smell and taste like sewage is the worst I have ever experienced in a hotel, let alone a luxury hotel or a yacht. Moving on, down here, there is a high-end Lavazza espresso machine. But when I first came in the room, there was still water left in the tea kettle and water left in the Lavazza machine from the previous guest. The stateroom attendant didn't clean these out at all. Now that's pretty disgusting because I don't know which water they use. It's been sitting here for a while, and water does definitely contain bacteria, especially if it's sewage water. And so now I have to clean these out myself. Just not a luxury experience. However, love Lavazza. The pods are complimentary. In the mini fridge, all of the non-alcoholic drinks are complimentary as well. So you have additional bottles of water, which is what I'm going to be drinking. And you have bottles of wine, a couple of sodas, Red Bull, things like that. Finishing up the mini bar, there are very simple made good snacks in here, which no complaints, these are also complimentary. It's a high quality brand. But that is it. No chips, nothing for purchase, just some bars, sodas, and waters that are included in your stay. Keep in mind, if you do the math on a stay like this, $26,000 over 6 nights, we're talking over $4,000 per night for this. And if you've seen other hotels I've reviewed in similar price points, like the Ritz Carlton Masai Mara, everything is included. Alcohol, snacks in the room, every meal that you have, all inclusive. Safaris, you name it. That's not the case on the yacht. So not only was there water left in the kettle and the Nespresso machine from the last guest, they also left some toenail on the floor. I definitely did not clip my toenails since I've been in this room, so the only assumption is that's someone else's. Yuck. Let's test the shower. Finally, the bathroom. Now let's address the obvious. Negatives aside, this is an extraordinary, beautiful room, on sea or on land. All of the materials are brand new, everything is incredibly clean, and it just is designed beautifully. The green jade here, the backlit dual vanity mirrors. Every guest that I've spoken to has said the same thing. The rooms make your jaw drop when you walk in. Visually, the design is there. The final tests in the room are right to my right. We have a toilet room over here, which is a lot of space for a cruise ship. If you've seen most cruise ships, generally the toilet is right next to the shower. The shower test is 3 criteria points, like always. That is the size, the ease of use, and the pressure. The size, we have to consider once again that we are on a ship. For a ship, this is incredible. You have a small seat next to me, which is heated, by the way, and plenty of space here for the overhead rain shower. Looking into the ease of use, you have very simple buttons and dials here on the left. There's a button for the handheld, a button for the rain shower, and a temperature control system that is very easy to use. Left for hot, right for cold. Let's talk about the pressure. You push this button, the water comes on, and the pressure is excellent. It's a very steady stream here, does feel like a rain shower. It does not feel like you are on a cruise ship whatsoever, but there is one major issue. About 50% of the time that I've turned the shower on, there is no hot water. That's been a big problem in the morning. I've talked to other guests about it. The hot water comes in and out. Right now, the water is getting hot. I know we're on a cruise ship, but it's still a luxury product and a very expensive price per night. There should be no cold showers. So look, it does pass the 3 criteria points that are normally appointed to the shower test, but the fact that this shower is actually cold half of the time and that hot water will not come out no matter how much you turn it up, unfortunately means it fails the shower test. Now I'm gonna change, get ready for sleep, and jump into the bed. It is now time to sleep in this bed, give it a full review in the morning. But before I do that, I want to talk to you about a couple of additional things. The first is, I'm wearing my Viore clothes. Viore came in and sponsored the channel by providing the most comfortable, the most breathable, just the best clothes. I used to actually sleep in the robes in the hotel room. Looking back, let's get some sleep. That was not very comfortable. Viore is also the sponsor of this video as well, so thank you, Viore team. In fact, if you scan this QR code on your screen right now, you can get 20% off anything you purchase if you sign up for emails. I cannot recommend Viore more. I'm just really a big fan. I also want to talk to you about the turn down service in here. So the turn down is very minimal. In fact, the waters were not replaced in the room. There's no waters next to the bed. The lights are hardly even dimmed. She just made the bed and that's kind of it for tonight. The final thing I want to do before I go to sleep is call the front desk and order room service breakfast for a certain time tomorrow morning. If you've seen my reviews before, you know I always order the exact same thing at the exact same time. We're also going to compare the price of breakfast here with breakfast at other hotels, and I think you might be a little bit surprised given some of the prices I've seen so far. The phone in here is like a brick. Look at this. Odd. Okay, let's try. Hi there, could I order room service breakfast for tomorrow morning, please? Wonderful. Could I do an Eggs Benedict and a black coffee?
Eggs Benedict. Black coffee, yes.
That's perfect.
So for one, anything else, sir?
No, just those two is perfect.
7, sir. And for what time would that be?
Could I do it for 7 a.m., please?
7 a.m. Certainly. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Very excited to try this bed. Let's get some sleep. Okay, first and foremost, this is a Four Seasons bed, but it's not the same as a Four Seasons bed on the land. Something in the mattress topper is different, just the quality of the mattress, just not the same. So that's definitely a consideration. The biggest problem last night is the room, the air conditioning does not work. So it got very hot in the middle of the night. I just haven't really had a good night's sleep on this ship yet. And last night was no exception to that. That's all I have to say. Time for the room score. Now, before I give the score for the room, I have a little surprise for you. I'm gonna go take a look at the top category presidential suite here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. Up here on 11 is the Four Seasons Presidential Suite. So it's still under construction, as you can see, but it will have 2 floors, a spiral staircase behind me, and come in at a price point of nearly $250,000 for a week trip. You have the entire front area here of the ship. It's completely private to yourself, and there are a lot of perks that they're still building in here. This presidential suite is a great example of how close the Four Seasons Yacht was to being finished before it launched. As you can see, there are many spaces like this that are just not complete or done. They can't even sell this category yet because it's still completely under construction. I just heard that they've been working on it the last 3 weeks. Everything feels really rushed. Now, it would be great to show you the finished and complete presidential suite. I don't know who is booking this when you could charter a yacht yourself for that same price. However, you have a lot of space here. You could fit an entire family. You could have parties that are private out here on the deck. So I get the appeal, but that price point, whew, wow. The room score. Now, I normally would make a coffee before this, being early in the morning, but I just don't trust that Lavazza machine with the water already in there stagnant. So instead, I'm gonna have some of these welcome amenities that I never tried when I first checked in. While I have these and I tell you how they are, I wanna talk about this room because it is a very difficult room score to give. This is an exquisitely designed room. I cannot tell you enough, sitting in it right now, how beautiful this room really is. The ambient light, the bed itself is just so majestic in the center of the room. The materials are all brand new and high quality. The colors work so seamlessly well together. There's so many things in here that are fascinating, like that television, although not fully functional the way it should be, it's just interesting and definitely something that I'm going to remember. Getting into the negatives, of which there are far too many to ignore. First and foremost, the water. I already told you, is a huge detriment to this room. They have to fix that. It's probably a health code violation. I'm blown away that Four Seasons allowed that onto their ship. Secondly, Some of the buttons in here, the technology doesn't work like you saw. The drapes are a little bit broken on one side, the buttons you have to press are extra long, things just don't work as seamlessly as they should. And then third, the shower is cold half of the time. Another thing that doesn't work as it should. These are things that can make an otherwise very comfortable stay uncomfortable. And I have to consider them. I gave the room a 6 out of 10. Now online, it says there are 11 dining establishments here. But after walking around, talking to others, it turns out there's really only 5. It's a bit confusing because they have a couple of outdoor spaces that they count as separate restaurants. Regardless, we're gonna look at every single one, as well as the bar and the cafe, and then give it a dining score. I thought this was a cookie. I apologize. This is thick white chocolate. That's not what I expected, but it is delicious though. Good morning from Terrace. This is the breakfast venue here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. It is a mini buffet and an a la carte menu here this morning as well. There's some international options, and I'm excited to kick off the dining segment with the nice view of the pool. Some fresh berries here. So before the a la carte items arrive here, I got some berries at the buffet that you just saw. And I noticed something a little bit odd. I'm gonna show it to you here. One of the raspberries looks like it has some mold growing on the inside of it, which is very shocking and definitely not a good start to the dining segment here. I mean, remember, we're on a Four Seasons yacht. And yes, it is a complimentary breakfast, but you can't be having anything with mold like that. It's a health hazard. Not so fresh raspberry. That's disgusting. A little concerned for the rest of this meal, but let's keep going, I guess. So the main breakfast a la carte options have arrived here. This is the quinoa bowl. Has some dried fruits on top, some shaved almonds, and it looks like just some boiled quinoa. So it's not the most appetizing or conventional dish. However, it does smell great. There's a little bit of cinnamon in there. That is very nice. Now, I must say, I am a fan of quinoa because when I moved to Los Angeles for the first time, I was on a pretty tight budget and I would just buy in huge bags of dried quinoa and eat that throughout the week. It is a nostalgic dish for me, however, not what I would expect. In fact, most of these dishes aren't elevated to the level that I would expect and don't match other Four Seasons around the world, especially those berries. So overall, it was a okay start to the dining segment. Maybe they're just having an off day in the restaurant, but if other guests are experiencing this, I'm truly curious how they are reacting to some of these options. We won't know until we get deeper into the dining here, but I'm not very impressed. For lunch, we have the Horizon Lounge. So this is a Mediterranean menu, which does change depending on where you're actually going on the yacht. It looks like a pretty simple menu here today, and I do hope it's a big improvement from that breakfast. The only way to know is to order. Fun fact, there's only about 100 guests on board right now, out of the capacity, which is over 200, and it is very slow. Almost every restaurant is very slow. There's no one eating. Now, some restaurants do that intentionally to try to slow down your day, pace it out. You can have long conversation. So I guess ordering drinks is a good way to pass the time. This is actually a very low quality tea that they're using. It's called Twinings, which nothing against the brand, but it is the kind of tea that you'd find at a very low caliber hotel that would be complimentary in the room or in the lobby. In fact, an entire box of Twining tea bags is about $7 US for an entire box of 20 to 30 of them. So they are really skimping on the quality here. The opportunities that they have to curate a list of high-end teas that are for purchase, sure, at the Four Seasons Yacht, are being wildly missed. I'm a big tea fan. You know that if you've seen the channel. It's just really frustrating that they're cutting corners like this. And if you love tea, this is gonna be a little bit of a disappointment. Okay, so the lunch has arrived here. This is chicken souvlaki, and we have a roasted cauliflower here as well. I had one other guest tell me this was one of their favorite dishes they've had on board, so I'm excited to try that. I'll start by saying I have been to Greece before. Souvlaki is usually on a skewer, and that's kind of the traditional way to eat it. It looks like they put it almost on a flat pita here, which is just an interesting presentation, a little bit different. Regardless, it does smell excellent. Let's dive in. Starting with the cauliflower here. Look at that, it does smell amazing. The other guest was right. That is the best thing I've had on the Four Seasons yacht. Some redemption for the dining segment here. I love it. Okay, let's get into the souvlaki. That one, not so much. It's definitely far from getting souvlaki in Greece, for example. Maybe I'm a little bit spoiled because the ones that I had there were fantastic. I want to talk about the atmosphere here at Horizon. So you are outside. It's a lovely kind of seating area right next to that pool area that you saw in the ambiance. Overall, Horizon was definitely an uptick for the dining segment here. But up next, we have a couple very exciting spots that I've been told are the best of what Four Seasons Yacht has to offer. There's only one specialty restaurant on board that you can book in advance, and that is Mayuna. It's an omakase sushi restaurant, and to be honest, I'm a little nervous after that breakfast to have raw fish on board, but I do want to give the ship a chance. Inside Mayuna, this is a beautiful atmosphere in here. You have an open omakase bar where you can watch the sushi chef actually prepare the sushi, sashimi, and various dishes tonight. There's some side seating as well. It's a pretty compact space and it's booked out most nights, and you can really tell why. The presentation already in the first dish that came out. And in fact, this is the level that I expected coming on a very high-end, ultra-luxury, very expensive cruise ship. So I'm glad that Mayuna definitely is hitting that note. The sashimi courses have started. This has a lemongrass ponzu. Wow. This is a brown butter oyster. Wow, the presentation here. I don't know what this is. I think it's maybe salt. That was incredible. They had a little crunch on the top. There's some ginger in there. The brown butter gives it such a umami richness mixed with the oyster. Wow. Standout extraordinary dish. This is the truffle wagyu. Look at this. I love this very large plate that they use with such a tiny cut. I can already tell I'm gonna definitely want more after this. The smell is it just took over the entire restaurant. I wish you could smell it. I wish you could try it. I'll do my best to describe it. Oh my. That is insanely tender. So tender. In fact, it was a little shocking. I thought it would have a little bit more texture to it. It's just so tender, it almost melts in your mouth. And of course, the truffle teriyaki glaze that they used is this touch of sweetness in there. I wish every restaurant on the Four Seasons Yacht I held their culinary standard to this level. Every time a dish is placed, our server will tell us the details of the dish, the ingredients, where it's from. He presented the fish to the table to let me know what the fish selection is tonight, that it's from the Mediterranean, that it was locally sourced. That information just gives you a culinary experience as opposed to just going somewhere to eat. When you're on a Four Seasons yacht, you're expecting a culinary experience every single day, morning and night. I can tell you, the only experience I've had so far that has been like this is right here at the Omakase. Before dinner here, we have Pistachio. So Pistachio is a small cafe where they have more specialty coffees, espresso, cappuccino. It's a very popular spot for guests to come and grab a high quality coffee to start the day. Speaking of, beautiful preparation of the espresso here. The way in which the beans are being completely reset and refreshed every 2 days, warming up the glass before the espresso is actually pulled into it, very impressive. They also have some desserts here that look pretty incredible. So you have this apple, which has an apple compote inside of it. Look at how beautiful it is. Anything like this, I never want to actually break it and try it because it just looks so beautiful. I feel like I want to take it back to my stateroom and just put it on display. Whoa. The coffee shop here is a big plus for the dining. I might be spending a lot of my time here. This is the main event here in the dining segment. This is Sedna. So Sedna actually means goddess of the sea. It is the main dinner restaurant here. It is white tablecloth, French rooted and modern. It's an a la carte menu tonight, so there's no multi-course, but I'm gonna get something from the appetizer, the main, and the dessert, which is my favorite part. And at the end, we'll give the yacht a dining score. So this is the amuse-bouche, which if you've seen the channel before, you know it starts a multi-course menu or a high fine dining menu like the one tonight. This is a oyster fried with caviar on top. They always bring this out and they'll say something like compliments of the chef, minimalistic, clean. The dish is wildly overpowered by the fried exterior. You cannot taste the oyster or the caviar whatsoever in this one. It is a fairly heavy amuse-bouche. Excited for what's to come. This is a Parmesan parfait with a egg in the center of it. It's like a soft cooked egg, foam around the outside, and they have some different petals on the top. And I always love a change of texture, like foam or something that you wouldn't expect in a dish. That is a really strange dish. Inside, there's something crunchy and cubed. And then you have the foam, and then you have a slightly denser foam, and then you have the liquid of the egg, and then you have the egg white, which is partially cooked. So I know I said I love textures, interesting textures. It can go the other direction when you have too many textures. My immediate gag reflex actually kicked in as soon as I took a bite because I think it was so overwhelming for my palate to have all of these textures at the same time. I want to like this. It could just be the presentation style or maybe the way it's presented. Thank you. Look at this. The main dish has arrived here tonight. This is a locally caught sole. It's a white fish, very thinly cut. I can tell you it smells extraordinarily fragrant. It really smells amazing. Mouth is watering just thinking about it. That is very nice. I mean, locally caught recently. You can taste that in the flavor. Slightly overcooked, slightly. Look at this. Here we are. This is the chocolate dome. It smells like hot chocolate. She came over and poured additional chocolate on top. So you have this beautiful chocolate twill. This is a dish for chocolate lovers, for sure. Lovely flavor. The textures in this one work very well together. The crunchiness on the outside, it crumbled underneath the spoon. This was nice. You know what time it is? The dining score. I'm taking a look at the bill for dinner here. So that came out to $222, what you just saw. The parfait alone was $66. The sole is $72. It does start to add up. All right, so I was going to come to Bar O and give this yacht a dining score, but there were countless dining experiences over the 6 nights that you didn't see on camera. I did get a chance to film a couple of those, and I want to make sure you take those into consideration for this score and for the service score coming next.
I just mentioned a moment ago that I'm allergic to beans.
I see.
And there's beans in this furniture.
I see.
Is it possible, could I get that on my official file here? Any beans, lentils, legumes is elegant. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate.
It is only day 1, and that is the 3rd dish I've received this day that has beans in it. When I've told them that I have a bean allergy, it doesn't seem like they're logging that for guests, which can be a big liability when you're out here in the middle of the ocean. No allergy information at all.
That item itself did not say beans, and there was edamame in there, and so just, you know, that transparency is helpful.
Beans and nuts is what I look after among other things.
If you look at everything together, there were only a couple of moments that were standout or redeeming. For example, the cauliflower over on the horizon, or maybe the Mayuna entire experience were really good moments, but most of my dining experiences here were just completely unacceptable, far beyond what you would ever expect on a Four Seasons yacht. The rotten fruit, cutting corners, low quality dishes, and especially the service issues. Service is coming next in this review, but to serve a guest multiple times something they're allergic to, it definitely was not a good indicator of what's to come on that front as well. If you consider everything, I gave the dining a 5 out of 10. Now, service is so important to the Four Seasons. It's even more important when you're on a yacht on the sea for 7 days with the staff, and that is your only experience that you have interacting with people outside of the guests. I have a couple of tests for the Four Seasons Yacht I team that I'm very curious to see how they do, but up until this point, I haven't been given a lot of confidence. Let's get into the service. It is 6:50 a.m. The breakfast service test arrived 10 minutes early here on the ship. We have our Eggs Benedict, and one thing that's very interesting that we have not seen before, instead of the hollandaise on top or on the side, they actually gave a hollandaise spray bottle, like a culinary spray bottle. So I'm gonna use this in just a second. Of course, the coffee is here as well. Everything is looking very good. And also, this is an opportunity for us to compare the price of this breakfast service test to others on the channel. So this in total was only $30 US, which actually is quite reasonable. It's a little more expensive than Malaysia, but not as expensive as Las Vegas, for example. And you can see that in the grid here. There's no service charge, there's no tip. It's just $30 flat for this breakfast. Okay, a little thicker than we'd like to see. See, so you can see the yolk in an Eggs Benedict is meant to be fully liquid. This one's a little overcooked. Maybe it's been sitting for a moment. Let's take a look at this hollandaise sauce here. Pretty excited to use this. Oh my. Okay, I'm gonna be kidding me with this. Oh, oh wow. So, hollandaise that explodes. Wow, that was absolutely crazy. It sprayed and exploded all over the window here on the side of the ship. The dish is almost unrecognizable now because of the pressure that was in this thing. There's a reason why luxury hotels on this channel have never served the hollandaise sauce in a pressurized container like this. I'm just gonna show you with this small container here. With that, they failed the breakfast service test here. I can't even eat this Eggs Benedict now. It's in pieces all over the table. We won't know how the service really is here until they have the official service test, but I can tell you, it's really not looking good. The service test is the part of this review where I call the front desk and order something that they're not used to hearing or that is a little bit challenging. Here on the yacht, they have not been doing the best with the service. In fact, I've been very surprised at how poor the service experience has actually been. So I don't want to give them anything too difficult in the service test that will make it almost impossible for them to execute. I had an idea. I told the staff at multiple dining venues that I have a beans allergy. I asked them to please update my files so they stop serving me beans. There just doesn't seem to be internal communication that is solidifying some of these guest preferences. I want to see, now being towards the end of the cruise, if they finally updated my file. I'm going to call the front desk and order something that I know has beans in it, and I want to see if they catch it. Good evening. Could I order something for room service, please? Oh, can you hear me? It's just cutting out a little bit. Oh, no problem. He just hung up. So we've talked about the capacity on the ship earlier in this video. We're only at about 50% capacity. In fact, the yacht is supposed to be a 1-to-1 staff to guest ratio in the service staff alone. Hello, Sir Ryan.
Yes, I'm ready to place your order.
Fantastic. Could I get the risotto, please, from the terrace?
Terrace, I'll have to find out regarding that one, yes, sir.
Okay, no problem.
Would that be it?
That is it.
No, this will do.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Bye-bye. He didn't even ask if I have any allergies over the phone. You know, for those that have allergies watching this, I don't like to be challenging. I don't like to change menus, especially when I'm dining at high-end restaurants. Maybe they'll catch it in the preparation process, but until then, I want to walk around the ship a little bit and talk to you a little bit more about the service in general. When you have accounting issues, you have physical infrastructure issues, and you have interface issues with the staff, you really start to feel it as a guest. Now, I don't blame the staff specifically. Many of them actually were wonderful, and I felt like I had really great connections with them. But there is just a lack of training and polish here on the Four Seasons Yacht I. In fact, even wearing the Four Seasons uniform, I caught staff smoking on the job, sitting down, and constantly on their phones. There were also some just frankly very odd scenarios that happened. Like I was sitting on the balcony trying to relax, and someone came by from the staff and started spraying it while I was still outside. The water was pouring into the room, got me completely wet. It was just extraordinarily odd. We weren't able to communicate, there was a language barrier, and there's been a couple of things like that. I actually had a conversation with one of the staff, and he mentioned candidly that he doesn't think the cruise is worth it for guests, that the value is not worth the price. Those kind of things should definitely be kept in close quarters in the cruise sections and not being told to guests. Unfortunately, that was the case for most of the staff here, but there were a few that I really had great interactions with, and I want to give them a shot with this service test. I'm so curious to see if there will be beans in the dish when it arrives, and I hope there isn't so that we can get a positive end to an otherwise really poor service experience. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Okay, so it turns out they did update their internal systems after all. That was a big recovery for the Four Seasons team here on the yacht. You know, with some time, they will definitely improve. But for right now, if you were to take this cruise the exact same way that I took it this week, I don't think you'd be very pleased, so I have to give the service a low score. Considering everything that you saw during this video, and the fact that they had a high note here at the end with passing the service test, I gave the service on board a 4.5 out of 10. Remember, this will definitely improve in the future, and it's not the staff's fault. It just takes time to build a really well-oiled machine. The It Factor score is 3 considerations. That is the unique nature of the ship, the location, and the value. There are so many things that are world firsts here on the Four Seasons Yacht. One of the major pluses, maybe even the largest, is how stable this ship has been. Many times I've even forgotten that I'm here on a ship. Also, being Four Seasons' first ever yacht experience is definitely something you're gonna write home about. I'd say it is a very unique stay and one that I'll be thinking about for a while, for multiple reasons. Now, speaking to the location, because we are on a ship on the ocean, I actually want to talk about the ports and the port selection. So I'd say about half of the ports are absolutely breathtaking, places that you can only access from a yacht of this size. The other half kind of felt like they were just stopover ports. You couldn't really do much in the city, there wasn't much to see, not normally a part of a cruise itinerary, but I think it's a big perk that you can only go to certain ports because of the size of this ship. And finally, the value. Is this worth it? $26,000 as the base rate, the lowest that you could possibly pay. It's missing so many touch points that make it worth that price, and the fact that you have to pay for all of your meals, room service, spa treatments, excursions, and every other addition on board is just insult to injury. I love the Four Seasons brand. I think they absolutely dropped the ball on this yacht. So with all of that in mind, I gave the It Factor a 6 out of 10. That was the Four Seasons Yacht I. I just received my folio and my total bill came out to $2,150 in onboard charges for everything you saw in this video. If you add the scores together throughout this review, I gave the Four Seasons Yacht I a 29 out of 50. I definitely can't recommend this stay in its current state, but with time, maybe some of these things will improve. With that, it's time to check out. I'm Ryan Walker. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.